Hey, Tuesday night, welcome. Hey, good to see you all again. Those who might not know, I'm Richard Moores, Children's Youth and Families Pastor for Southside Uniting Church. Good to see you along. So Southside meets on land that the Yaga and Turrbal people have cared for. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. So this Thursday we are having our end of term Jaffa, and that means our barbecue, which makes me remember back to last year, and we were getting ready for the week of the barbecue and we went into lockdown, and everything sort of stopped. So that means we've done a year of COVID. Wow, 12 months down, who knows how long to go. But made me think, well, what have we learnt in the last 12 months? What are the things that we go, wow, this is what we've got out of it? Because hopefully we will be getting things out of this time, and hopefully we're learning and growing. If we come out of COVID in the same space as we went in, we've probably missed our opportunity. I like to say to people that perhaps COVID is one of those things where God is stopping us and trying to get us to think. I resonate well as a historian with Phyllis Tickle. Talks about every 500 years there's a major change in society and culture and the church, particularly coming out of Western Catholic Christianity, those areas that have been influenced by that. I know some of my people back in the Upper Hunter would have had terrible thoughts of us being influenced by Catholic, but let's face it, we did. And so if you go back 500 years, we hit the Reformation. Major changes around there, not just for the church, as Luther, Zwingli, Calvin and others pull away and seek reformation within the Catholic Church and then pull into what we will now call Protestantism, because the Catholic Church won't move like they feel it needs to. But there's also the introduction of the printing press, radical reforms in how society is structured. 500 years before that, you have major split between East and West, finally cemented as the papal legate goes in on Easter Sunday and puts a bull of excommunication against the patriarch in Constantinople. And, that goes down well. Patriarch Constantinople then excommunicates the Pope and all the Latin Church, and you have all of that split. You've also got some major things happening there. 500 years before that, you've got really the rise of the papacy. So it's where the Roman Empire is falling down and it's ending. And you've got the rise of the papacy as Rome can no longer look after itself. Suddenly the Pope steps up as the big bastion of in power there. 500 years before that, there was Jesus. So you've got Jesus, you've got the Pax Romana, you've got all those sort of changes there. 500 years before that, you've got the Babylonian exile. 500 years before that, you've got David. So you can see these major events. And so they go 100 years potentially either side of that sort of 500 years. So there's room where it moves and changes. So we're in one of these cycles. And one wonders whether we're not going quite the change that we need to. And God goes, right, if you can't get it normally, I'll give you something big. I'll give you COVID, which will help you to realize things need to change. That we can't just keep doing the same old, same old. And so what have we learnt from COVID? And so I was thinking a bit about that today, in between racing around doing RI and getting ready for Sunday and things like that. And so, firstly, the thing that stands out for me is when we change, we settle into things really quickly. So it's hard to change, but once we get into a new normal, then we can get stuck into things really well and really fairly quickly. It was interesting. So COVID hit and suddenly no physical contact, social distancing. And I don't know about you, but I know for myself, fairly early on, you're reading books and it's like they shook hands, like, no, you can't shake hands. No. Oh, that's right. This book is not written during COVID. You're watching TV. Oh, no, you can't do it. Oh, that's right. It's all right. And then we didn't blink when MasterChef, everyone's social distancing and standing apart. And yes, that's normal. That's what we do. Suddenly there's perspex shields between contestants at on ABC hard quiz and other things like that. And in fact, when there's not those things, it's like, oh, why aren't they social distance? Why aren't they doing that? We got really quickly stuck into this is what the COVID world means. This is what the new normal is. And the challenge for the church is that sometimes we go, oh, we can't change. It's really going to, push people and they won't want to change. But it's amazing in lots of things how we change and the change is difficult and hard, but we get so caught up into the new change. It's like, well, this is how it's always been, hasn't it? We've always social distanced. And it'll be interesting as those sort of things are no longer there. Well, what does that mean? And do we still continue to social distance in some way because actually we've found some use in that? And so I guess that first thing, that openness to change and that ability for us to take on change and to take on change in a rapid way and to change and to settle into that change, that it's not just, it's not impossible, but it's, hey, we can change, we can adapt, we can move and we can settle in. And there's all sorts of stories about in the church, you make quips of, you do it 4 weeks in a row or you do it 6 weeks in a row and it's now the tradition. We need to be open to that sense of, as church, we can change and we can adapt. So number one, we adapt quickly. It's not something to fear so much. Number two is that sense of, COVID has taught us to think creatively and to go, okay, there's a problem. How do I get around this? And so we've been amazingly lucky at Southside to have Rachel as our COVID champion, COVID warden. That's her correct title, COVID warden. Really thought it should be COVID Nazi, but I don't think anyone would see Rachel as a Nazi, so I guess she's too nice, too kind. But has really been of the point of, you tell me what to do and we'll work out how we make this happen. We can work out how do we do this in a COVID way. And within youth group, it's like, okay, let me think about this and I'll work out how we do it. So, chocolate game. If you've ever done anything with children and youth, you've probably played the chocolate game. Chocolate game is you sit in a circle, you roll the dice. When you roll a 6, you have to put on an apron, gloves, different types of clothing, and then you need to start cutting up bits of chocolate, get it on the fork, then pull it off the fork and put it in your mouth and eat it until someone else rolls a 6. And when they roll a 6, you have to go back to your place and they take over, and so on and so forth. And so you might get no chocolate when you roll a 6. You might get, half a block. Who knows? And so you go, well, that's obviously not COVID safe because you can't be putting clothes on that someone else has put on it, and you can't be picking up a knife and fork that someone else has used. So how do you do that in a COVID safe way? Easy. You pre-cut up the chocolate so that all the squares are cut up. You give every person their own plastic spoon, which they are to pick the chocolate up and then pull the chocolate off the spoon and eat it. So the spoon doesn't go in their mouth, they're not contaminating it in any way. Anything that will touch the other bits of chocolate are not being touched by them. Instead of putting on clothing, run around the room. So the putting on clothing is just a time filler we don't want you to jump straight in there and start eating chocolate. You need to have a bit of time for someone else to roll a 6. And so run around the room, come in, get your spoon, start pulling bits of chocolate out. COVID safe chocolate game. And so it's that challenge of how do we get creative about what we do? And we're already doing that to some degree, but it's just encouraged us to be more creative. Like I remember a youth group night. I might have told you this story before. If so, sit back, have a snooze for 30 seconds. Oops. Got a bit excited there with the cup. But I remember back at Belmont, and we were having a tennis night. And the weather was not good, and so it's like, well, let's cancel tennis. And of course, by the time tennis came around, we could have done tennis, but you have to make a call early enough that you can let everybody know and do all the things that need to be done. So we made the call, right, cancel tennis, stay back at the church. And then we thought, well, let's do some sporty type things. And thinking, oh, there's a table tennis table in one of the halls. And there's bats. And they're balls. So they could play table tennis instead of real tennis. There's no net. And so go to the craft cupboard. Look, there's 2 cardboard tubes. There's some paper. Sticky taped cardboard tubes onto side of table tennis table. Say that 10 times quickly. Table tennis table. Anyway, getting sidetracked. Stick that on, put a sheet of paper across, boom, you've got a net. So we were already doing creative stuff. It's just caused us to be more creative. Now, how do we do things in a way that are COVID safe? And some you go, we can't. But other things you go, we can actually make this work. We can, it doesn't have to be. And it's not just about games, it's about all the activities. We've been able to come back and do stuff face to face. And so this Sunday, for instance, we're having a combined service for Palm Sunday. Because it's a combined service for all of Southside, it will be designated seating. Designated seating can't stand up to seeing minimal movement of people. And so you go, oh, how do you do that? Jock had a script that he sort of liked. That was two commentators and then an expert coming in, commentating on this parade for the king, for the coronation of the king of Israel, or king of the Jews. And look, here's the celebrities, and sort of ends with, hang on, it's gone to crazy, and these people with palm branches, and there's a guy on a donkey, who knows, and there's the end of, where's the king? That was the king. And so thinking through that and going, what if we extrapolate that to a whole service? And so, spoiler alert, if you're there on Sunday, or if you tune in, because we're broadcasting it live out of there, fingers crossed, we're going to have the commentators on stage, and we're going to cross. So we'll cross to the band, who will play live there, with people sitting and singing. But that sense of, hey, as part of this celebration, they get ready and there's music to worship God. So let's cross across to the band and see what they're singing. Boom. And then, hang on, part of this celebration, they spend time preparing themselves and getting ready and confessing the sins that they've done this year. So I believe we're about to hear the person leading the prayer. So let's cross to that person leading the prayer now. And that's pre-filmed. That's in the can. Just got to fiddle that up a bit tomorrow. So prayers of confession, prayer for the offering, prayers of the people, Bible reading, all done pre-recorded. Have them already. And so we'll just switch across and do a live cross to them. We'll have clips for the people in the parade, stuff like that. So we won't actually have a parade because you can't get people up and walking about because of COVID, but we can do all of that. Which lets us do the play. B allows us to include people into those prayers that otherwise might not have been there. So we've got prayers of the people from our Jaffa kids, which includes prayers that they will see the tooth fairy and prayers for a pet dragon. And yes, my son prayed for the pet dragon. Just makes you proud as a youth pastor that your son wants. What would you pray for the world? That I would get a pet dragon. He then did it. I prompted him, and we got a COVID thing, but pet dragon came first. So it allows us to use people that otherwise wouldn't be part of our service. It allows us to talk about, well, why are we doing these things? So we can introduce, well, they're singing to celebrate who God is. They're praying to confess the things they've done wrong. They're praying to recognize that God's given them a whole heap of stuff. And so they give back. And therefore, they're giving back to God. This is why we have an offering. This stuff that we don't do very well of explaining why we do things in church, we get to do that. And particularly because we'll have all the kids in there, intergenerational, we're teaching the kids this is what we do and this is why we do it. Hopefully parents have been doing intentional whispering with them, but this gives us opportunity to do that. So we've had to be creative. And I'm excited about the service because I think in so many ways it can just be really great. That intergenerational, multi-people being involved, explaining what we do in church. For me, sounds exciting. Sermon will be done as an interview between David Fender and our presenters. So, yeah, just a whole heap of ways. Different. Might rock some people's boats. That's all right. You know me, used to rocking people's boats. But will be exciting and new for that. So, he's hoping it goes smoothly and goes well. But, we've had to be creative. We've had to do that. Thirdly, we've had to think about communication. So we've had to think about how do we let people know what's going on? How do we draw in as many people? How do we do things in a multi-layered way? So even now, we have in-person services. We have an online service. And we have worship sheets that go out to people who some might watch the online, some don't have access to an internet, and so that's their service. They get their worship sheet for Sunday. So those multiple ways that we do communicate. That's the challenge. How do we do more of that? How are we communicating in multiple ways so that people hear our message? Because too often we go, I've put it in the notices so everyone heard, and you quickly realise they don't. Case in point, David Fender is the only one who, not last week's notices, but 2 weeks before, realised that I'd actually sent in the stuff from March last year instead of this year's. And so suddenly Stephanie was retiring again as a chaplain and things like that. And he's the only one that's mentioned it to me, which makes me suspect he's the only one that actually read the Children's, Youth and Families section of that newsletter. Or everyone else is really, really polite and didn't go, you're an idiot. I had a good laugh about it. I didn't feel that bad about it. But yeah, it's that challenge of how do we communicate in multiple ways? How are we making sure that the people who need to know? So that's been something that we've been reminded of through COVID. One of the other key things that we've got through COVID is that sense of relationship and that sense of being together. That really, his glasses annoying me. That sense of it's fine to do stuff online, but we need that personal connection. That things were so much better when we got back to face-to-face. And I know some people haven't done that yet, and that's fine. That's where you're at. But things are in a new field when we can be face-to-face. And so that real sense of how are we providing opportunities for people to come together and spend time together? How are we providing that opportunity for relationships to build. And that real sense that, ministry is about relationship. And particularly as we've hammered into you, ministry with young people is about relationships. It's about spending time with people. It's about that place sharing, that walking alongside them in that space where they are. Remember back the story of Bonhoeffer and the little boy and Mr. Wolf. How do I just sit there with this boy who's lost his dog and listen to him and allow him to express his feelings? And he has a theological discussion that I wouldn't be able to do at this point, sort of thing. And so that sense of, we need those times together. We need to be intentional about providing spaces for people to meet. And that great opportunity now that we have, having the young families have a picnic, which came out of COVID. Would we have got there? Probably not. That sense of if we'd just gone without COVID, maybe we might have done picnics occasionally. But I don't know where we would have. Because there's that sense of, families are busy, so why would we put this on? But suddenly families are busy, but they realise the importance of relationships and time together and will invest in coming once a month or once every second month, whatever, to a picnic. And so that opportunity opens up. Finish my water off. On the flip side of that, we've also learnt that we can do stuff online. So I remember years ago thinking about, what if we had an online Bible study, and going, it really works best if you're in person and you're together and you're there. And what we've realised, online can be really great. Online is great for meetings because it means you don't have to leave 10, 20 minutes before the meeting, and you don't have to travel home 10, 20 minutes. You're at home, you walk into your meeting when it's starting, when you leave, you turn it off, you go to bed. Or go on with your day, or whatever you're doing. Online's really wonderful. Online's also wonderful for multitasking. I can sit in a meeting, but I can also get some other things done. Some of us are better at multitasking than others. I think, I know I've heard people talk about, you can't really multitask. Your brain is on one thing or the other. I've heard people say men can't multitask. But I think the thing of playing piano, I remember seeing a colleague of mine from the Upper Hunter, formerly was the Anglican minister at Scone, then was the Anglican minister at Marywall, and then was chaplain at a couple of the primary schools, had put up this picture on Facebook at one stage, like the pianist. Well, I'm working on this hand's doing something and this hand's doing something completely different, and my foot's doing something different, and I'm trying to read ahead of where I'm actually up to with my hands, and I'm listening to what everyone else is doing so I can play at the speed. So if you're playing in church, you start off at a speed and you think, well, what are they singing at? Oh, they're actually singing slower than I'm playing. Okay, I'll slow down a bit. So can I pick them up a bit? I'm picking them up. No, they're going a bit slower. I need to slow down again. So you're doing all these things. You are multitasking. And for me also, doing cross-stitch while I watch TV. I can't sit and watch TV. I need to do something else. And it's true in so many things. I can't just sit there in a meeting. I need to be doing something. It actually keeps me more engaged. If I'm just sitting there, I'll just nod off or something. Won't nod off, but I engage more when I'm doing. Which probably looks like I'm less engaged, but it's not true, honestly. So we've found that the online space can be good. The online space has meant that we're doing this every week. At the end of 2019 or middle of 2019, we tried doing some sessions talking about different areas of our ministry. And particularly, I think they sort of went around what are now the ministry areas. And so I did 2 sessions talking about ministry with young people. And altogether, I think we cracked about 10 people. One had 5 and the other had 5. One might have had 4 and the other 6. We had about 10 people come along. And you go, is it worth it? That's hard graft for doing that. But now we've got this video, and okay, we don't really have 10 people watching every week, and that's fine. But we're getting a core cohort of people who are understanding where we're at ministry with young people. You're getting that. And there are people who catch up later on and have watched numerous things and go, I've had someone say, I get what we're doing now. I get why we're doing what we're doing. We haven't just gone, what do we do with youth ministry? We'll do that. We've thought through this. Again, that sense I was talking about a week before last, after the Amplify conference and the youth ministry speaker about, how do we reboot after COVID, and sort of thinking, well, we've done all that. We've thought through all of that. That we've been doing that. And part of that thinking has been this. And I thank you for tuning in, because as I talk, it helps me to coalesce what I've been thinking. And some of you have fed back comments, and it's like, that's why we're doing this. This is where we could head. And so this has been helpful for me, and hopefully it's been helpful for some of you to explore and to discover what it is we're doing and why we're doing it. And so it's been great to be able to get out there and do this. Been great to get out and do some stuff for the kids each week. That has meant to, though they might be in different centres, they're seeing the same stuff. And so there's stuff that they can relate to. And so they can comment back when they see each other at Boys Brigade or something. Did you see this in the video? Oh, yes, I did. As we've talked about before, COVID's also opened that door for us to emphasise family faith formation. That in the change we've been able to go, hey, we want to, and our job is to resource our families. That it's no longer about us doing all the education, but we need to help our parents to be educating and building the faith of their young people. That's really what our ministry is about. So that's opened that door. It's opened the door to intergenerational. And so again, the service on Sunday, we probably would have got there. We'd been talking about a service led by young people. This isn't as far as we would like to go, and we will go further, but this is a good step in that direction. And so, we can do that. So we've learned a whole heap from COVID, and hopefully as we move forward, we will continue with those changes and continue to hold on to those things that we've learned and look forward to other things that we might learn as we plod along. Because there's no way this has ended and the changes have ended. We will continue to adapt and change, or the situation will continue to adapt and change, and we need to adapt and change with that situation. Who knows what that will be. But so, a year on, and I don't think I started this week 1, so it's not a year of these broadcasts. If anyone's sitting there going, you didn't start till April or whatever. All right. It's just a year of COVID for us. And again, if you're in another country, you might be going, we've had COVID for longer. Just for us in Brisbane. This is a year on for us. And thankfully, God has been so good to us. We haven't had a COVID case linked to any of our congregations or any of our activities that we've had to shut down, do major cleans and stuff like that. We've had to cancel services because of lockdowns in Brisbane and the like, but we've worked through that and we've been adaptable, and we've had great systems. We've had wonderful people. We are so lucky with the people, particularly tech people like Derek, that we have, that have helped us to, survive and, I would say, flourish through COVID. There's things that we could have done that we should have done that we didn't. Hindsight will point those things out to us. But we have tried our best. And I think we've learned. So thanks again for joining us. Feel free to pop any comments if there's stuff that you've learned, or there's stuff that you've seen that we've learned that I haven't mentioned. Pop it in the comment box. If you're tuning in later, thanks for joining us. Pop it in the comment box. Don't forget to like, share if we've said anything exciting, or if I said anything exciting, because Grover's in a bag somewhere grumbling at me because I haven't got him out. But have a good one, and we'll see you again, hopefully on Sunday. You know, in person. You can stream. Won't necessarily see me on the stream, but that's a good thing. And if not, we'll see you next Tuesday. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.